Next we have Teresa Turner with us.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I have a comment not about the agenda tonight, but about last week's meeting. Is that allowed now?
I believe that would be appropriate during the final public comment where public can comment on anything to the city commission.
Okay, I'll wait until then. Thank you.
I believe we have Bob Bush with us tonight.
All right, can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, well, I would like to thank you very much for giving me the platform right here. I'd like to thank Commissioner Tolis and Commissioner Gillis for bringing up what I think is number 9 on the agenda. And this is about Commissioner Perschbacher and an image that was posted on Facebook. And this really brings up an opportunity for us to talk about racism and white supremacy in our community. And I really want to thank Commissioner Tolis and Commissioner Gillis for bringing this up. I mean, we've seen it at our restaurants with Cheers recently. It was reported on that. I know that I've heard it all over town, racism and things like that. And the imagery that we saw was all over, the bullying truck rallies that we saw, and also at the insurrection. So to say that this blue line flag, the image that was presented by the Commissioner Perschbacher, is about showing support to law enforcement is just too cute by half. I mean, we've seen it. It has been adopted by treasonous insurrectionists, and we really need to not vote to censure Commissioner Perschbacher, and not it really shouldn't even be brought up at the city commission right now. And so I just would like everybody, if there is a question brought up to censuring the Vice Mayor Perschbacher, that is voted down, because we don't want to be known as a community that cottons to white supremacists and racism. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Steve Sweeney with us tonight.
Hello, everyone at City Commission. This is Steve Sweeney. My address is 1405 Greenbrier Street, Mount Pleasant, Michigan. And I'd also like to talk about the item 9 on the agenda, the censure vote on City Commissioner Amy Perschbacher. I am against the censure. I would also like to, say that I agree with Bob Bush's comments that the blue line American flag has been taken over by white supremacists. I don't know that it ever really held the meaning that some people think it does today, because it was brought out during the Black Lives Matter to basically be a counterpoint to that. And I don't think City Commission really needs to comment on Facebook posts anyway. That's just a rabbit hole that I don't think anyone wants to go down. But anyway, thank you for giving me a voice and hearing me. And I'm against censuring of Amy Perschbacher. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Dustin Kuntz is the next name I see.
Hi there. Yeah, Dustin Kuntz. I actually represent Vice Mayor Perschbacher. And as you might guess, I'm here to comment about agenda item.
Oops. I apologize, Mr. Kuntz. That was my mistake. I was trying to lower a hand and I hit the wrong button. If you could please start over, I'm sorry.
Sure, yeah. Dustin Kuntz here. I am Vice Mayor Perschbacher's attorney. And as you might guess, I'm here to comment about agenda item number 9. On April 27th, 1977, David Goldberger took a life-changing phone call. On the other end of the line was a man by the name of Frank Collin. David Goldberger, you might guess by the name, was Jewish, and he was also an attorney from the American Civil Liberties Union, or ACLU. Frank Collin was the head of the, or at least a representative of the National Socialist Party of America, or the American Nazi Party. Frank was trying to demonstrate in the village of Skokie, Illinois, first on May 1st, which is ironic because that's Law Day here in America, where we celebrate the things that make us uniquely American, and we celebrate the rule of law and not living in communist or dictatorship type of government. The May 1st thing didn't go so well for him, and we'll get into that in a minute. And so then he also wanted to try July 4th, also a day that sticks out for obvious reasons. And he was trying to demonstrate with his fellow Nazis in Skokie, Illinois. At the time, Skokie was a village of 70,000 people, and about 40,000 of them were Jewish, and hundreds, if not thousands of them, were Holocaust survivors. The village of Skokie, for obvious reasons, did not want Nazis marching down its streets, and so they got an injunction from a trial court in Cook County, Illinois. And then they quickly passed some resolutions that said, no, you can't wear swastikas here, and if you want to publicly demonstrate, you got to post a $350,000 bond, things like that. And the lower court granted the request for an injunction, keeping the Nazis off their streets. And then an appellate court in Illinois decided not to expedite things and left the injunction in place. And then the state Supreme Court did the same thing. And within a month and a half of the first bit of litigation, this, as they say, made its way up to the United States Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court entered an order that didn't say a whole lot. It's like one paragraph long, but it also says quite a lot. And what it says is that the village of Skokie in these Illinois courts violated Frank Collins' First Amendment rights and the National Socialist Party of America's First Amendment rights. Nazis get to march down the streets of a village that is over half Jewish and has hundreds of Holocaust survivors. That's what freedom of speech means in the United States of America. That we protect that we show we are not Nazis because we let the Nazis do this kind of thing. So let's talk about Amy and the Facebook post. And I'm not going to get into the details of what she meant by it and how it's being taken. People are going to take it however they take it. Some people think she's saying all cops are Nazis. We know that's not what was meant, and there are emails to the commission talking about all that. We're not going to get into it. Let's just assume the worst possible way this could be construed is the truth, that Vice Mayor Perschbacher is saying all cops are Nazis. My question is, so what? There's a remedy for that, and it's called the democratic process. It's called an election. If any commissioners don't like it, find someone to campaign against her. Speak out, hold town halls, whatever. That's your right. But to censure her is to censor her. And that is the most un-American thing I can imagine. If you disagree with what that Facebook says or what you think it says, the remedy is not to use your authority as a city commissioner to punish her and to punish her expression of speech. I don't even think the city charter gives you the authority, even if you wanted to, because this is even an ethics matter. But putting that aside, again, fundamentally what we have here is the vice mayor exercising her right to free speech on her personal Facebook page, and now the commission bowing to the whims of a mob and taking up the issue and deciding whether to punish her. And if you want to support the police and what the police are here to protect, your vote is it's easy. It's voting against censorship and censorship. Thank you.
Next, we have Jessica Jernigan with us. Jessica, if you can hear me, are we able to unmute Jessica?
I think I just unmuted. Is that correct?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. I am Jessica Jernigan. I live at 302 East High Street. I am here also to talk about agenda item number 9 tonight. I happen to be one of the community members who immediately understood the context surrounding the image that Vice Mayor Amy Perschbacher shared on her private Facebook page. I know that there are people for whom the thin blue line flag represents support for law enforcement, but I also know, as we've heard tonight, that the thin blue line flag has been co-opted by critics of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I know that this symbol has been braced by white supremacists, including, as Bob pointed out, those who participated in the assault on the Capitol that have left 2 law enforcement officers dead and several injured. In fact, just within the last week or so, the chief of police for the University of Wisconsin banned police officers from displaying or wearing representations of the thin blue line flag precisely because of its connections with white nationalism and other dangerous anti-democratic ideologies. Ms. Perschbacher has apologized for offending community members. She said that she could have expressed her views more clearly, and she has affirmed that she was speaking as a private citizen, not a representative of the city of Mount Pleasant. As a resident of the city of Mount Pleasant, I am satisfied that her response has been more than sufficient, and I do not believe that censure of any kind is warranted or would be beneficial to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Next, we have Toby Thomas Bush.
Hi, my name is Toby Bush. I live in 900 Appian Way, and I am here as well to state my stance against the censure of Amy Perschbacher. I, along with the 4 people who went in front of me, I agree with them all. I especially appreciate Steve Sweeney's point of how saying the Blue Lives Matter flag and the Blue Lives Matter movement was just to counteract the Black Lives Matter. It was the argument against, and that is concerning at the start. But the image that Perschbacher posted on her Facebook page, her personal Facebook page, not as a representative, is very interesting to keep in mind to just ask her questions as a community of who associates. Who, along with the Blue Lives Matter people, associate with what that flag represents underneath the Blue Lives Matter flag in that photo, because there is a large amount of people who associate with, Nazi intentions, Nazi ideals. So, and we have seen throughout, the past few weeks with the past few months, sorry, with the insurrection at the Capitol and the Trump supporters who associate with these, racist and fascist ideals. And I think it's very important to not censor Perschbacher, because it's important to always question and make sure that your communities are being safe and supportive and tolerant of everybody that you live with, because that is needed for a good society. That is all I really have to say. Yet again, I am against the censorship of Amy Perschbacher.
Thank you, Toby. Next, we have Eric Chirkover.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, great. I'd just like to briefly add my voice to what I'm happily seeing is a growing chorus of people who are supporting Commissioner Perschbacher and hoping that number 9 on the agenda I hope that it does not result in any kind of censure. As others have pointed out, probably more eloquently than I can, the commissioner was expressing an opinion privately as a private citizen, as is her constitutionally given right. I'd also like to just, and this is something that just occurred to me, so I'll point out, it's very, very easy for a group of anonymous people on Facebook to complain bitterly about something that they read or see. It's quite a different story for those of us who live in this community and are engaged in this community and care deeply about civil rights and basically, well, all the things that make a community good, to call in and participate, which is what I think I'm happily seeing a lot of us are doing. And I think it's important to take that into consideration, the fact that those of us who are supportive of the commissioner's right to express herself are now expressing ourselves. And those who have been critical in very, very unfair ways on Facebook or any kind of other social media are currently standing mute. So I'll leave it at that. By the way, I also speak for my wife, Xantha Karp, who is a biology professor here in Mount Pleasant. So that's two citizens who would like to basically voice their opposition to any sort of censure for someone who simply expressed themselves as is their right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. Next, we have John Dinsey.
Am I unmuted?
Yep, we can hear you, John.
Okay. Well, I'd like to echo the sentiments of a good number of people tonight. I won't go into repeating some of the things that have been said. I'd just like to say that I witnessed the events of January 6th by watching C-SPAN as things were happening and found them very disturbing. And I saw firsthand white supremacists carrying the blue line flag. And I think Commissioner Perschbacher is reacting to this kind of bizarre scene by placing on Facebook, what she did, which was a sentiment that I think is shared by a large majority of people in Mount Pleasant. I guess my basic point here about, opposing any kind of motion to censure is that one of the jobs of a city commissioner is to express vocally and otherwise through Facebook the sentiments of the citizens of the town or the community that she represents. And I feel that she was doing that with her Facebook post. And in that regard, as a representative of the community, it was totally appropriate. And so that's basically what I wanted to say. And I'm glad to add my voice to a number of people in expressing this sentiment. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Next, we have Miss Pat Heitman.
Hi there. Thank you for taking my call. I am also, my name is Pat Heitman. I'm from 911 Elizabeth Court here in Mount Pleasant. I also am expressing my sentiments about agenda number 9 on the agenda that you have tonight. I would put my voice with the rest of the people who have stated emphatically that censoring only brings a name for our community, only brings more strife for our community. And I, as a private citizen and the quote was listed as on a private citizen's Facebook page, that's their right to express and place and take a stand on our community. It behooves me that you, this would even be an agenda item and that this would be talked about. I thought we were a community that could express ourselves. I thought we could say, and all 7 of you could say and have a voice. That's why you ran for city commission. That's why you're there, to take a stand on our community and make it better. This is just ridiculous that you're even spending time on censuring somebody for a post that was on their private Facebook page. So I would be against censure. I would be against taking away somebody's rights. I would be against putting forth even any effort in this. I'm just ridiculous that I have to call in and make this comment. I am happy to have somebody take a stand. I am happy to have our city commissioners be in the moment and express themselves about what's happening in our world. I don't want it to happen here. I do not want, I support the police. I work for the police. I work at the jail. I support Commissioner Amy Perschbacher and would be against censure. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Next, we have Sarah.
There we go. Hi. I'm not sure whether my voice can be counted or not. I think I'm technically in Union Charter Township, but live in Mount Pleasant. On 4439 Sterling Way in Mount Pleasant. But I also vote to not censure Commissioner Perschbacher. I have nothing new to say. I think that it's yeah. I think my opinions have been stated by other citizens. Thank you.
Sarah, can you provide us your full name, please, before?
Oh yeah, sorry. Sarah Prussing, Prussing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Manager Ridley, did we have any emailed comments on agenda items?
Let me check. No, Mayor, we don't have any emails that came in.
Okay. I see Maureen Eke is raising her hand for public comment.
Hi, good evening again. I'm sorry, I thought I had raised my hand earlier, but apparently I didn't click it hard enough. But good evening again, and it is good to see all of you here, and I'm happy that you're all well. 2 weeks ago, I approached you about this issue, and I made some suggestions. I have spent the past 2 weeks thinking about this particular issue. I have visited the city's website and read the comments. Majority of the comments on that website are comments from people who do not live here in Mount Pleasant. That troubles me. In other words, they're dictating what we have to do. But what troubles me especially is that the city commissioners are spending an inordinate amount of time to talk about this issue. 2 weeks ago, I indicated that Vice Mayor Perschbacher posted that comment on her private Facebook. What made it public, what threw it into the public domain is the city responding to a comment she made on her private Facebook. And now you're talking about censuring her. For me, a commissioner who pays attention or draws attention to a social problem in the society that might have tremendous impact on us, I would think is trying to call our attention to something that we need to address. At no time in that particular post Did I see her say, or does she say, I'm talking about the Mount Pleasant police? Even the comment itself, the pointing to the thin blue line flag suggests that other people have appropriated it. If this is a flag that is so sacred to the police, and other people have appropriated it to do horrible things, shouldn't law enforcement people be actually irritated? If we should be angry, if somebody should be screaming, they should be screaming that some ugly people have taken a symbol that they see as sacred and are now using that particular symbol to do horrible things, to even kill their own members. And here we are saying it's, condemning somebody who is saying, look at what they have done to this, that beneath this, somebody is doing nefarious thing. We're faced with tremendous problems. I see Confederate flags flying through Mount Pleasant. We need to talk about that. If she points that out now, should we then go and censor her also? I do think that we have a problem. As I said 2 weeks ago, I think this is a moment for us to reflect and to use this moment to have a very deep conversation about this particular issue. Are there racist cops? Of course there are. Ask any Black person, what do you think we're thinking? I am a Black woman who lives here. I worry. I work with some cops, but for me, it's also a problem when I think of what might happen to me if I called a cop. Should I call a cop or should I not call a cop? The thin blue line is supposed to represent security for us, but somebody is using it to do unsafe things, to hurt people. How do we then begin to trust this particular symbol if we don't talk about it? What she's done is simply say, take a look at this. Let's have this conversation. And we're going to punish her for calling our attention to something that we ought to be doing ourselves. I don't think that it is the right thing to do. She does have civil rights. It is a civil rights infraction to sort of silence her because she posted on her private Facebook something that is public. It wasn't as if she created it. It is public, we know that. So like my friends or other residents who have called earlier and opposed this, I do oppose this sanction. Please do us proud and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Next, we have Desiree Woodworth.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. My name's Desiree Woodworth. I live at 214 North Arnold Street, Mount Pleasant, Michigan. I'm also calling about agenda item number 9. I believe everybody said some really wonderful things today, and I don't want to continue reiterating the same point, but I would like to offer this up as an opportunity for all of the commissioners to consider how they are doing this anti-racism work themselves, and maybe what kind of work they still have to do. I find that if this post made you that uncomfortable, that maybe there's a lot of work that you have to do, and then it is your duty to do that work now. So I would say that I am totally against censoring Commissioner Amy, sorry. And that's basically all I have to say.
Thank you, Desiree. Teresa Turner is with us now.
Okay, I'm Teresa Turner from 608 South Kinney, and I did have the comments I had related to the last meeting, but it really, as I hear people speak, it ties into what's going on now. So I'm going to go ahead and make my comments. So I was not able to attend the entire meeting on January 25th, but I did watch the recording of the meeting. And my comments are related to the proceedings of the last meeting. Toward the end of the meeting, Commissioner Tolis made a statement that made me cringe. His comment alluded to the fact that the police department has received only 4 written complaints, and none of those was related to race. He went on to say there are no race-related problems. I'm not sure if Commissioner Tullis meant within the police department or if he meant within the city of Mount Pleasant. Regardless, if bias assessment is based on the existence of written reports only, the city or city departments are not using a wide enough lens to monitor the existence of racism. As a person of color who has lived in this community for over 40 years, I can tell you many overt instances of racism occur that are never reported to anyone. Furthermore, having conversations about race and bias are needed to promote understanding and healing. Discussions about race and bias are not meant to be divisive. I hope the commission follows up on Professor Ickey's suggestion to host an open forum to address some of the concerns related to the Facebook post and the aftermath. And finally, I wanted to point to the City Commission's peacemaking proclamation and cite a couple of quotes from that proclamation. One was, peacemaking contributes to a more cooperative and just way in which we live together. The other is, peacemaking honors and respects others and their differences as well as ourselves. And the bottom line too, I support the previous callers. I do not believe there should be a censure. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. At this time, it doesn't appear anyone else has their hand up for public comment on agenda items, so I will close the public comment section at this time, and we will go into receipts of petitions and communications.
Mayor, in this part of the agenda tonight, we have the monthly report on pending items, as well as the monthly report on citizen complaints received that were in the packet. And then there were 5 written communications that were received prior to the City Commission agenda packet going out that were included in the public packet. And those 5 communications were from Jared Morningstar, as well as Amanda Morningstar, neither of which provided a local address. And then Mr. Bruce Kilmer sent a communication. And then Mr. Bob Bush of 422 South Washington sent a communication. And then, as mentioned during the public comment, Eric Cherkover and Xantha Karp of 318 East Cherry sent a communication. And then over the weekend, 3 more written communications were received. And it's been our practice during these virtual meetings to read those communications that came in after the packet was sent out, since it's difficult for you to get copies of them and for the public to know what was received. So I'm going to read those 3 communications for you now. The first one came in on Friday, and it was from a gentleman named, I believe it's a gentleman named Rorick Brooks. And his communication says, "Greetings all. My name is Rorick Brooks and I live at 618 East Gaylord Street in Mount Pleasant. I'm writing to comment on the recent controversy that has arbitrarily risen around Vice Mayor Amy Perschbacher's social media post criticizing the thin blue line flag. First, I'm disgusted with the demeanor of Petro Tolis towards his colleagues over a matter that has been incredibly overblown in every way, starting with purposefully and dismissively mispronouncing Amy's last name multiple times, even after correcting himself. Then, in the midst of publicly admonishing and infantilizing Amy and Olivia while accusing them of playing politics, he himself chose to play politics and blatantly sow more discard. virtue signaling left and right, saying we absolutely don't have a problem with racism in Mount Pleasant. I hereby call for Mr. Tolis to resign and or face legal punishment for his offensive words and demeanor and blatant disdain for his legally elected colleagues. Do you see how ridiculous and hyperbolic that sounds? All pointed barbs aside, please, for the love of God, stop this nonsense. Everyone who is writing in or making comments condemning the vice mayor and telling her to resign, shame on you. The vice mayor made her position clear when she graciously apologized and clarified her statement. And yet this political circus still rolls on, flames being fanned by purely partisan politics. I can read beneath the lines on that just fine. Please stop this now and do what you're elected to do rather than squabbling over this junk. Also, anyone calling for Olivia to resign over a virtual like, give me a break. What kind of weird dystopian world are you wanting to reside in? Seriously, think about it for 2 seconds. I would be willing to bet that every single one of you has liked something that could be considered controversial on the internet. If that is grounds for legal action and losing your position, just big, big yikes over here. I'd like to remind everyone that the thin blue flag is absolutely, unequivocally not shorthand for law enforcement and never ever should be. It is not an official symbol. It is a symbol co-opted by misguided civilians, and even more alarming is that it's often paired with the Punisher logo, which is essentially advocating for the unchecked use of deadly force. The term may have been somewhat popularized in the 50s, but was never a large part of the public consciousness until recent years, in direct opposition to the Black Lives Matter movement. We all know what this means. It means that it has nothing to do with supporting police and everything to do with stifling dissent. That flag and blue line image is a disgrace, excuse me, and I believe only makes officers' jobs more difficult by further creating a divide along with strong and dangerous us versus them sentiment. It is being banned from use all over the place. Even as recently as last week, it was banned by the chief of police in Madison, Wisconsin. It is frankly a huge embarrassment to our town that this is even an issue and that a small but loud group of people are putting so much public support behind this image. And to the vice mayor's point, we all saw what the blue line flag really stands for on January 6th, while it was used to beat, maim, and kill, nothing but hate. One last quick point. I guess that more than half of this town still supports Amy Perschbacher and Olivia Simon. Stop trying to make officials resign that many of us folks voted for. If you try to negate our votes, there will be serious loud pushback.
Next on the agenda is item number 9, which is the receipt of information from city attorney regarding the scope of legal authority regarding the recent social media post and to consider next steps. At this time, I know Mike Homier, our city attorney, is with us. And so if Mike or if you have any overview comments.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. So you have a summary of what I think are legal options available to the City Commission. I want to make sure that I'm clear and choose my words carefully. I'm not making a recommendation on whether the City Commission should adopt a resolution of censure or take any other action. This is one of those times where this is the intersection of politics and issues of free speech. So it really is within the purview of the City Commission to determine what action, if any, it should take. That doesn't mean I'm endorsing any particular action. It simply means I've laid out sort of the options for the City Commission to consider should it want to do so. I will say that in terms of the speech itself, I've listened and heard a lot of comments on how this is a violation of free speech. And I would just say that I disagree with that analysis. It is not a violation of free speech. Just as individual members have a right of free speech, so too does the public body itself has a right of free speech and can express that free speech through the adoption of a resolution, should it choose to do so. Again, it's within the purview of the City Commission. It's not my decision to make for you. It is your decision as a public body.
And then Mayor, if I could add to that based on my cover letter, I indicated in the cover letter that the commission can either take no action this evening or the legal research showed that there were two potential options available. And in order to try to bring this matter to closure this evening, we did go ahead and lay out for you what those next steps would be if you desired to take any of those actions that were available to you. And as my cover letter indicates, the resolution that's provided is just a draft for your consideration. And as the letter says, you can make any changes to it. We just thought it would be easier for you to start with something to work from instead of having to wait to have something drafted. So if you go down that route, we just have a draft available for your consideration.
Thank you, Manager Ridley, and thank you, Mike. I recognize Commissioner Tolis.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to get one thing clarified here. On my response to the 3,900 calls that the city of Mount Pleasant responded to the police department, I said that there was 4 complaints and none were race related. So you people can spin it any way you want to spin it. It is what it is. Go back and look at the minutes. But I expect that because I'm the only conservative on this commission. Getting back now to this, our options. I agree, Mr. Homer is our attorney, but I still think there's a city ethics ordinance under section 30.16, which is item E. We've now spent 50 minutes arguing about this and taking all these comments in. This is not a political platform, people. It's not. So now you've caused a disruption and disarray with the police department, the city commission, and the city of Mount Pleasant with a black eye. I didn't say anything about any of this stuff that Commissioner Perschbacher commented on. This is politics. That's not our job here, people. We're here to do the city's business, okay? And conduct business for the best interest of the city. And I will make a motion to accept option 1, the resolution to censure the vice mayor as presented.
Commissioner Gillis.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to censure Vice Mayor Perschbacher and to accept the draft resolution that was presented and drafted with Mike Homier, our city attorney. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to amend the draft resolution by excluding under therefore be it resolved items number 1 and items number 3. Commissioner Tolis and Gillis have your hands still up. I don't know if that's...
You want to eliminate, Mr. Mayor, item number 1?
Item number 1 and item number 3.
That we don't support the city of Mount Pleasant Police Department and the city law enforcement partners? Am I understanding that correct?
That would be item number 1 and item number 3. Okay. Commissioner Tolis's hand is down. Without any hands up, there needs Commissioner Gillis.
So let me make this clear. You want to take out from the resolution that we support the city of Mount Pleasant's police department and the city's law enforcement partners. And you want to take out of the resolution We are committed to working together to develop clear expectations for social media use and resolve that a social media policy will be drafted for future consideration by the City Commission. You want,
Yes, that's correct. That is the motion that I made.
okay. So the only two things left really in the resolution is that you want left in, if this motion were to pass, is we encourage elected city commissioners to consider the impact of their public expressions on the public trust in the city of Mount Pleasant. And we officially censure Vice Mayor Perschbacher for her social media posts, which lack context and therefore was interpreted by many as a lack of support for law enforcement, damaged the reputation of law enforcement in the city, and diminished the public's confidence in their elected officials. So out of the 4 bullet points, you want 2 of them taken out, and those are the only 2 you want left in.
That is my motion. Commissioner Alsager.
I think I understand the reasoning behind your motion, but I think in full fairness that since I'm not going to vote for the motion, I'm not sure that, well, I think I see your point that if the motion fails for censure, then we're still supporting the police because we haven't passed a motion, we haven't failed a motion that says we support them.
I guess at this time I would look for either a second or no second, and then if we get a second, we can go into discussion and I can explain further my motion.
I think, did I already second you?
I don't
Okay. All right. Well, I'll second your motion.
Okay, thank you. So just so we are clear where we're at, I have a motion on the floor to amend the draft resolution to exclude items number 1 and item number 3 from under the therefore be it resolved. At this time, I guess I'd like to explain just where my thinking is at. This resolution was drafted in by Mike Homier, our city attorney, and it's a draft. And so this is because we're a public body, we have to conduct our business in the public eye, and this is our chance to amend this motion or amend this resolution as we see fit. And I think that my reason behind excluding item number 1 is that I think that you can vote for or against the censure of Vice Mayor Perschbacher and still support our police department and our partner agencies. I think that it's a distraction in some ways from what the central issue is. And I think it's a little bit unfair to be included in the ultimate resolution. I feel the same similarly about item number 3, which is to develop a social media policy for the commission. And I feel that's not appropriate for this resolution, because if that's something the commission decides it wants to take up, it should be taken up separately. And so that's the basis for my motion. And so I see Commissioner Gillis has her hand up. So, oh, I'm sorry. So, Commissioner Ronan.
Yeah, with regard to transparency, I'd like to know who exactly was involved in drafting this, actually. Did the attorney do it by himself? Did the staff help? Did anybody help? I'd like to know who was actually involved.
As with all items that go in the agenda, it was drafted in coordination between Mike Homier and myself. Whenever there's a legal thing like that, we typically work together on those. So the 2 of us worked on the drafting of it based on what we heard from the comments of city commissioners and the initial request that went to Mr. Homier about the concerns with the ethics violation.
Thank you.
Commissioner Alsager.
Well, and Mayor Joseph, I think I appreciate your reasoning for separating those out and making it independent of whether or not the motion of censure passes or fails. So I'll be supporting your motion.
Commissioner Gillis? Lori, you're muted.
I'd like to make a statement on the first motion because I believe that we may have some changes.
I guess at this, for our proper rules of debate, we should be only talking about the amendment, and then we'll vote on the amendment one way or another, and then we'll go back to the original motion. And so if your statement is more broad, I would ask that you wait to address that.
Then I think I will continue because it is pretty broad.
Okay.
Might give some thought into why we're eliminating some of the main features. We live, lead, and work in a different age than we did 10 years ago when the commission's ethic guidelines were created. So today we all really rely heavily on social media to connect with our local and national leaders. While we have our right to freedom of speech, we are held to a higher standard than our peers due to the nature of our position. Currently, there are no outlines provided for appropriate online behavior for our commissioners. We need to establish guidelines that protect our freedom of speech, but also mitigate the risk of a sitting vice mayor making national headlines for an ambiguous political post on her Facebook page. I will support this censure in hopes we can learn from Vice Mayor's mistake and work to develop clear expectations for social media use. Further, due to the nature of the post, I think it is important in this resolution of censure to provide a clear statement of support to our law enforcement partners. So I think this amendment does not do justice to what we are trying to do with the censure. I hope we can move past this as a commission so we can focus on rebuilding trust in our community and working towards a brighter future for the city. But I will not be supporting these amendments to the censure resolution.
Thank you, Commissioner Gillis. I don't see any other hands up, and so at this time, Commissioner Ronan.
No, I apologize that was unintentional.
So at this time, I think it's appropriate to do a roll call vote on the amendment. The amendment was to eliminate items number 1 and 3 from under where it be resolved. And so I think it's pretty clear what those are at this point. So at this time, Chris, take it away.
Commissioner Alsager,
Yes.
Commissioner Gillis,
No.
Commissioner Simon,
I'd actually like to clarify, are we voting on whether we're going to vote to pass the amendments, or are we voting to pass it with those amendments?
right now we're just voting on the amendment.
Okay, yes.
Commissioner Ronan,
Yes.
Commissioner Tolis,
No.
Vice Mayor Perschbacher. Oh, I'm sorry. Yep,
I
sorry.
recluse.
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm out of order. Just go down my list. Mayor Joseph.
Yes. And I guess for something I failed to clarify earlier, it is standard practice during a censure resolution that the person who is the subject of that censure is not part of the debate or the vote.
Yes, my apologies. That
So
passes 4-2.
So that amendment is passed, and that takes us to the main motion as amended. I'll open up the floor for debate or discussion. Commissioner Alsager.
I think I've clarified my positions a little bit from 2 weeks ago, even, that I fully believe this is a First Amendment right to have your own opinion, and I will be not voting for censure.
Commissioner Toles.
Again, as I say, this is a black eye on the city. This is not a platform for politics, which that's what it's turned into, people. Just face it. And this is ridiculous. We will not support the police department of the city and law enforcement partners. Are you people for real? Seriously?
Commissioner Ronan.
Yeah, no surprise. I'm not going to be supporting this either. I think it's a byproduct of the way it was dealt with and the legal advice and a variety of other things that were provided. So there's no way I would support this.
I just want to clarify my position. As I discussed last week, I think that the Facebook post by Vice Mayor Perschbacher was problematic in some ways, that it has caused, a lot of people to be upset. And I know there are several different interpretations of that post, and I think, it boils down to where you sit and how you see that. And I think, the vice mayor's mistake in many ways was not adding more context to that post as she has explained. And I think that would have clarified her position better. It obviously has been a tough couple of weeks dealing with a lot of public who are either upset in one way or another about how this has gone on and been handled. And my fear that what has overtaken the city commission is now really items that I think are for the public to discuss and debate. We should not be, as a board, I think, entrapped in drama that is happening outside of city business. I do think that the commissioners, as their role, have a responsibility to make sure that they represent the city well and represent their residents and the organization. And so obviously the hard part about that is everyone has a different idea of what that means. I didn't think that the post that Vice Mayor Perschbacher put on her Facebook page was something that I would put on my Facebook page. I certainly am probably more muted when it comes to social media, and that's my choice. I think that if we go down this road of censure tonight, that we put ourselves in a position of precedent where we'll be chasing Facebook posts or things said in the paper or hearsay that really isn't our place. The place is for the voters at the ballot box. And so I won't be voting to censure Vice Mayor Perschbacher tonight. And as I didn't want to vote for something also that said, or I didn't want to vote against something that says we support our police, because I do support our police department. I think I made that pretty clear in our last meeting. I think they work really hard. They're meeting expectations that are at the top of their class around the country in terms of the training that they get, the reforms that they have embraced, and they should be commended for that. I think it's really great work. And obviously we're in a divisive political time, and so it's tough for anyone who works in public service or who is in a local elected official to cut through some of these tough issues that are happening at the public or at the national arena, and how it relates to our own community. And so this is our I think our first sort of run in with something that of this nature in a long time. And I think the city commission needs to stand by and not get itself into these sort of controversies as a habit. So that's kind of where I stand tonight. Commissioner Tolis, I see your hand is still up.
No, I just want to make one more comment. This is an embarrassment. It really is a total embarrassment. You embarrass me. This whole commission does. You don't support the city police. That's what we're basically saying, right? Right? Right. Thank you.
At this time, I don't see any other hands up, so we can go to vote on the motion as amended. The motion is to approve the censure resolution, and the amendment was obviously to take out items number 1 and 3. I just want to ask, is everyone clear on what we're voting on? Give me a thumbs up real quick. Okay. All right.
Commissioner Elsager,
No.
Commissioner Gillis,
Yes.
Commissioner Simon,
No.
Commissioner Ronan,
No.
Commissioner Tolis,
Absolutely, yes.
and Mayor Joseph.
No.
That fails 2-4.
Okay. All right, next on our agenda.